Hey everyone, Robert Peak here from Next Action Associates, and today I'd like to bring two of my passions together in one short video. Many of you know me as someone who teaches the Getting Things Done, or GTD methodology, for greater personal effectiveness and well-being. It's something I love doing because I love seeing how much it helps people. But I also love working with these, my hands. And in particular, I've taken as my unique craft form woodworking lately, and really been enjoying just that, discovering the craft of working in wood. So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about how I see GTD, the Getting Things Done approach to knowledge work, as it were, as in a way, its own form of craftsmanship. I think there are a lot of interesting ideas from the world of handcrafts that can be applied to help you up-level your own GTD practice and your game more broadly in terms of being effective in your job and in your life, and also having less stress and more of that wonderful kind of Zen-like experience of being with the materials and the tools in the moment that we call craftsmanship. So one of the first principles that we can apply from the world of handcraft to the world of knowledge work is that you need to keep your tools sharp. Now, I've done another video on the topic of some specific tools that you need to keep sharp and how to keep them sharp: email and lists and calendar. So there's some practical and tactical hints about all of that in this video that we'll link to above. But there's another element of keeping your tools sharp, which is the actual practice of taking time away from using the tool to get it back to a working edge. And so in this case, in the case of the Getting Things Done methodology, of course, we're talking about the weekly review. And the weekly review operates on a couple of levels. Many of you are familiar with the 11 steps of the weekly review and how this can help you bring your system up to date, how it serves as a kind of backstop against the system drifting too far from reality and becoming less than useful, becoming dulled, as it were. But there's another opportunity in the weekly review process, which is not only to go through the steps, but to kind of notice your experience of your relationship to the system. The same way, perhaps, that when we're working with a hand plane, you might notice if it's chattering over the surface. That could be an indication that it's not set up properly or that it's gone dull. Likewise, when you're looking at your list, if you notice yourself sort of stuttering over certain items or being repelled by others, it may be an indication that you haven't sharpened up the definition of what that particular next action or desired outcome really is. More and more, as I get into this kind of approach of finding presence in the experience, the overall experience of crafting with my hands, the more and more I realize that it's very important to actually enjoy the process of cleaning up sawdust and of sharpening tools if I want to be able to embrace the whole experience of really crafting at the highest level that I can. So likewise, I would just encourage you to embrace the weekly review process. It is a fundamentally important part of how you go into the coming week, frankly, sharper. So the next principle I've taken away from the art of working in wood to the art of living my life more broadly is that the slow way is the fast way. Now, I'm not inherently someone that would say I'm a sort of paragon of patience, but what I've learned the hard way, frankly, is that the best way to do something and to do something effectively and to do something fast, frankly, is to do it right the first time. And so in this case, when we're talking about the Getting Things Done methodology, of course, doing is thinking largely. And so thinking things through thoroughly and well the first time when they show up in your world, thinking things through in terms of what the next step is going to be, what the desired outcome is, clarifying and organizing those items into a good system for yourself, and doing it so well that you only have to really do it once, And that every other time you approach that item in your system, it's simply a reflection of reality rather than an opportunity to rethink and repair some of your previous thinking, because frankly, you kind of cut some corners there. So slow way is the fast way in the moment as you're actually working with a particular raw material, in this case your raw inputs, and trying to sort of translate those into something that's much more effective and efficient for you. But also the slow way is the fast way over time. Really the only way to sort of fail, I guess, at any handicraft is to give up, right? Because if you don't give up, if you just continue to put in the time, continue to approach the work pieces with the tools and put in the effort to get better, guess what? You'll get better. The same absolutely applies for GTD. And so really the only way to sort of fail is to give up and not get back to it. But you can always get back to it. You can always come back to the workbench, as it were. And the simplest and most effective way is to simply approach the system from wherever you are, wherever you find yourself, and begin by doing a simple review to clean up and to get that system to match your reality once more. So the slow way is the fast way, but the slow and steady approach is ultimately what gives you the quality that you're looking for, both in the world of handcrafts and in the world of knowledge work. And the third principle, this one may seem like a little bit of a stretch, but stay with me here. The third principle I've learned is to follow the grain, right? And in the case of working in any kind of way with your hands, generally speaking, when you're trying to produce something or create something, if you're really having to force things, you're doing it wrong. So likewise, when we turn to your flow of your life and work intellectually, and as it comes through, in email and all of these other different ways that are competing for your time and attention, if you're having to push harder to get the results you need, you may be doing something frankly wrong. You may need instead to step back and have a look at where you're meeting the resistance, where you're meeting the resistance in terms of your systems, where you're meeting the resistance perhaps in terms of how the different areas of focus in your life that you've chosen to take on aren't necessarily aligned with each other and with your values, meaning you got too much to do, right? You're working those long hours because frankly, there's just too much going on in your world. And so if you're having to push, if you're having to really lean in, there's a really good chance that you could break something. And that something might actually be you. So follow the grain. Go with the way that your life and work is in fact flowing. And when the way that your work flows matches the way that your brain needs to work, there's a state of harmony. There's a kind of beauty, really, as those wood shavings come off on the wood plane. When you're in the moment, when things are truly kind of lined up. So there is a way to work smarter instead of just harder. That is, to me, the most fundamentally hopeful message of the getting things done methodology overall. And so you can borrow from these simple first principles that people have known for thousands of years, probably since as human beings we first picked up tools and decided we wanted to shape our external world. But as we're shaping our internal world and the world that's increasingly digital and more ephemeral, harder to grasp with our hands, I think it becomes all the more important that we look to first principles that we've developed in our relationship to the physical world. Principles like keeping your tools sharp, that the slow way is the fast way, and that if you're pushing too hard, you might not be following the grain. You might not be going with the way that your life and work needs to flow right now in order for you to actually be as effective as possible. So I hope this was useful. I hope this was at least intriguing, if nothing else. If you are interested in learning more about the Getting Things Done methodology, how it can put you in that wonderful mindset of the craftsman in relation to your entire life, please do get in touch with us, next-associates.co.uk. Meanwhile, do like and subscribe if you want to get more of this kind of content in YouTube or wherever you find us. For now, from me, my hope for you is that you can take away some of these principles and start to apply them in your life and in your work to your GTD practice, whether you're just getting started or you're far along in the journey, and start to have more of that wonderful, satisfying experience, which is quite simply of shaping yourself and your surroundings in ways that are meaningful to you. See you next time.